the jewel flew through the air and was gobbled up by a small dragon that flew down. Oh. Yua Gaia, don't eat strange things. The small dragon was Gaia. It seems that Milim, who had followed us, was holding it and jumped out when she saw the jewel. I don't think it was mistaken for food, so I think Gaia had some idea about it. Milim is just being too overprotective. Meanwhile, Leverger, whose jewel had been stolen, was crouching and clutching his head. It's unclear what's going on, but the jewel appears to be quite important. It is likely the remains of Veldanava and Lucia. It appears that they have absorbed the remnants of their powers and authorities, but we surmise that they were unable to take their heart cores or hearts. That seems possible. Veldanava was a creator god after all, so there was no way he would have everything taken away so easily. And where did Ivalage come from in the first place? It appears they were originally the same being. Oh, is that so? If that's the case, it makes sense that there was no way to prevent the identification. When you think about it, Shin has cut off that connection, and it seems like she has accomplished something truly amazing. So everything is in the hands of Master, Lord. Not at all, absolutely not. Overestimating me still seals bad habit. I thought to myself, oh well, and wondered what to do next. Leverger seemed to have let go of his feelings as he flapped the wings on his back and floated into the air. He continued to rise and looked at us with eyes, high, glare, and eyes. I will never forgive you. I will never forgive you for stealing my treasure. While he curses, his power continues to grow. No, rather than increasing power. It's going out of control. It is assumed that the jewel is acting as a computing device controlling the power. I thought so. Normally, if an opponent loses control of their power, they are sure to lose, but that's not the case with Leverger. He possesses an endless supply of magical energy and a vast amount of energy. That's not all. Not only can he nullify any power, he also possesses an attack method that can penetrate everything. If that incredible amount of energy were used in an attack, it would be unlikely that any living creatures on Earth would be able to survive. If it were just me, I could somehow deal with it, but it's impossible to protect everyone. It seemed that the ultimate barrier that Milim, Ramaris, and the others were maintaining with Gaia at its center was only able to buy time. We have no choice but to end him before he unleashes his power, I muttered. The question is how far a full power attack will work. It was a one-hit blow to Leverger's clone, but I wondered if it would actually reach the main body in front of him. As I was wondering what to do, a voice echoed in my head. I understand that it's unreasonable to ask you to do something like this, but I want you to give the child a name. It seemed as though I sensed two intentions. Veldanava and Lucia, and their child is Gaia. Those were residual thoughts, and the people themselves have long since disappeared. However, the fact that they conveyed their feelings to me means that they had a reason for doing so. As to how he was able to leave the message, the mechanism behind it was simple. Gaia was originally something like a reincarnated form of Veldanava, so he was able to directly influence Gaia's soul. They will use Gaia as the main body and place their remnants within it. Their intention is likely to be a parental desire to protect their daughter. Gaia. Kyuyoi. When I called out, Gaia escaped from Milim's arms and flew over to me, flapping his wings. He then looked at me, wondering what was going on. I also looked at Gaia. Well, what kind of name would be good? What is Rimuru thinking? You're probably planning to do something outrageous again. That bastard Rimuru really can't be helped. He needs to consider the time and the situation. Kyufufufufu. I will not tolerate disrespect towards Rimuru-sama, Guy. Shut up. I'm angry that you agree with Diablo, but Guy, I won't allow you to doubt the work of God. Seriously, shut up. The outfield is noisy. Very noisy. Even Testarossa and Dino were discussing their opinions. I think it's strange that no one is worried about me, but if I worry about that, I'll lose. I shut out the outside voices and focused on Gaia. That's right. From today, you are the Earth Star Dragon, Velgia. Inherit the will of Millims, Creator and your father, and from today, live as a new dragon kind. As soon as I made that declaration, Gaia shone brightly. Q. Gaia shouts with joy. This was the birth of a new, dragon species. I was about to say the fifth, but when I thought about it, I too have the true dragon attribute, so it would be a bit complicated. Since there are 5 legitimate true dragons, I decided that it should be recorded as an official record. Now then, has it really turned into a dragon species? I have. My little brother has been born. You're so stupid. We don't have a gender. Well, it depends on who you love. Either way is fine, so let's welcome them. I would like you to stay out of Velgia's education, Ain Sama. Oh, I wonder why. That means Veldora and the others also seemed to acknowledge that Velgia had become a dragon type. The conversation had gone off track, and I could imagine the tragic future that Veldora would face, so I turned my attention to Velgia. What I felt was a definite connection between Milim and Velgia, and for some reason, that connection was also with me. It must be the effect of the nomming. I have also acquired true dragon core. Earth Star. Apparently, he hadn't acquired true dragon liberation or anything like that. So it wasn't like he could absorb Velgia. And yet, for some reason with Velgia's consent, he was able to convert her into a true dragon core. There are some strange things. Well, my hope Elpies had 3 holes, but when I looked closely, I saw there was one more hole. Velgia Khan. Cute. He was very willing to help. I decided to simply accept his kindness. Now then, having absorbed the power of Gaia, also known as Velgia, my hope Elpies shines mysteriously. The 7 colors are mysterious and very beautiful. So I had gained even more power from this situation, but Le Verger was also in trouble. He was gathering more and more power and recreating his original giant size. This time, he won't separate but will unleash his full power. If we had been able to bring this to a drawn-out battle, victory would have been assured, but now that this has happened, it seems the impact of Le Verger's attack will extend to the entire world, across all dimensions. It's a problem, Seal said in a tone that didn't seem like he was in any trouble at all. That huge body probably served as a sort of cushioning. Being protected by it allowed Le Verger to unleash his full potential. The attack will not be limited to the base world, but will affect all worlds. Still, I don't panic. The reason was that Seal-san seemed completely unfazed. After all, I need a partner, Seal. With Seal-san there, we could at least share the heavy responsibility. Le Verger's power grew even stronger. It seems to just keep gushing forth from no bottom. Seal's calculations probably weren't entirely wrong. Not entirely wrong, but definitely correct. I guess so. Seal said that, but he wasn't in a hurry and didn't feel any sense of danger. Maybe the reason is that they want to see me at my best, or they have some other unusual idea. I will remain silent. Remaining silent makes him seem more and more human. Anyway, thanks to Seal, I can remain calm. Then, quietly, he put his strength into Hope Elpies. Seal doesn't say anything. His silence was pushing me to believe that it was the right decision. Military power is made up of strength, skill, experience, wisdom, and a little luck. Of these 5 factors, we will exclude luck, as it is something that cannot be changed by individual effort. Experience and wisdom are essential, and although they can be compensated for To a certain extent, with good sense, they are important elements that need to be accumulated. While natural talent is important when it comes to technique, it is through repeated daily training that the skill shines like a polished jewel. And then there was power. This was the deciding factor. Pure power is a violence that sweeps away everything. No matter how wise or skilled one may be, they are useless in the face of overwhelming power. The saying goes, the soft overcomes the hard, but this only applies within the bounds of common sense. Ultimately, one cannot resist a power that transcends providence. It was a universal truth that man could not overcome nature. Leverger is exactly that. It was a natural disaster for humans. A monster that could not be resisted, no matter what. It is trying to swallow up the Creator God and destroy the world we live in now. Valdanova would have tried to create a new world after destroying the current one, but it was unclear whether Leverger even had such an idea in mind. He has simply increased his power, and driven by his feelings of anger, is trying to destroy me and my comrades. The absolute violence that will make this possible is now about to be unleashed. It was absolutely unforgivable, and there was no way we could tolerate such foolish behavior. So are you ready? You're so insolent. I'll never forgive you. I don't need this world anymore. I'll destroy it all. Oh, I see. I don't think it's possible, but go ahead and try if you can. Betting everything, he denies Leverger. God does not play dice. That's the same for me. He only fights he can win, and acts in a way that will make that happen. The same thing happened this time. Leverger took a stance, crossing his twin swords. In preparation for the attack, I also took my puss stance. The aim was swallat subum rutun, gushy. He had envisioned knocking down the first blow and deflecting the second with the return sword, but Leverger did something unexpected. You should just die. As if to slam his hatred into me, he threw two swords at me. Kunnus Kama and Mamoa. That's not all. The two swords acted as conductors, receiving Leverger's power. The power that converged, there was destructive enough to destroy the world many times over. Pure power becomes a violence that sweeps away everything. It was a destructive force that surpassed the creation of the world, proving my belief. But however, that move was so convenient for me that it was almost laughable. That's a bad move. Without panicking, I exercised my authority. It is the soul devourer that swallows everything. Any and all emission-type attacks can be isolated in my imaginary space. Normally, it's impossible to handle such a huge amount of energy, but it's too late now, so it's not a problem. Vart. Was there really a need to say that now? I was so relaxed, thinking everything would be okay, that I never considered the possibility of it not working out. There are really a lot of problems. It's okay. It didn't seem like anything was okay, but it was too late now. I pulled myself together and realized it was my turn next. Well then, I'm counting on you. Yes, I'd like to show you my full power. Leave it to me, I won't hold back here. I'm kind of excited. Kya. Now that we have reached an agreement, we're going full speed ahead. The power was concentrated so as not to affect the surrounding area, and it was so sinister that it seemed as if that area had been transported to another dimension. Furthermore, void collapse was operating at full power, so even if there were any aftereffects, they should have been offset with ease, or so it should have been. That's not how it's meant to be used, so I don't understand why that's the optimal solution. Okay. Now that Sul has agreed, all that's left is to unleash this violence. Sulson is at Sunda, so even though she complained, she still assisted me, so I could rest assured and leave the rest to her. I stared at Leverger. It seemed as though he didn't want to accept reality and was clearly confused. Use you. What is it? Who the hell are you? Hearing that, I laugh. No matter what you ask me, I am me. Makumi Cetera. Rumura Tempest. And then, who am I? That's a given. My name is. Come to think of it, I remembered that I hadn't introduced myself, so I told La Verger. And yet, for some reason, La Verger becomes enraged. Don't mess with me. I'm no longer alone. I've regained Voldanova and become one with him. I've become omniscient and omnipotent. What a relief. La Verger is so ignorant that it's almost laughable. Even though he had absorbed Voldanova and even given himself a name, in an attempt to return to being the All-One, in the end he was unable to reach. Omniscience and omnipotence, well, that's only natural. But your very existence is a contradiction. The All-One exists precisely because there are no contradictions, but Voldanova had too many contradictions. Having absorbed and integrated such a being, there was no way that even Lavaja could return to being the All-One. That's the truth. Right. It's a logic that even a child can understand. While it is ideal to tolerate a variety of ways of thinking and aim for diversity, it is also true that this can hinder unity of will. If individual rights are pursued too much, it can cause cracks in the unity of the group. That being said, it's no fun to have the rights you've earned taken away, so it's inevitable that a tug-of-war will arise here. Therefore, as a contradictory existence, we must constantly engage discussions aimed at creating a better world, aiming for a solution through dialogue, not force. However, that is not something that concerns La Verger. It is impossible to have conversation with someone who refuses to understand the opinions of others and tries to take away their rights without even recognizing them. If I don't eliminate them, I will be eaten, so I will fight with all my might. So, I think it's about time to wrap it up. I aimed the shocked and confused Lavaja and delivered the blow I had prepared with all my might. His finishing moves are the deadly Kawakahuj Kabarara, Sun Hun Pun Tun, Thuzand Ben Banaka. I'm going to lose. Why, that's weird. Don't worry, I'll eat you too. My sword cut down Lavaja. A flash of light. Even though time had stopped, a blinding torrent of light filled the surroundings. It was an information child that was so visible that it could be seen with the naked eye. The dark Daman aura that overflowed from me neutralized the negative miasma emanating from the dying Lavaja. My authority was protecting everyone. Lavaja seems to be resisting with all his might, but since he's been consumed by my soul devouring, he can't do anything but let his body be eaten away. This is wrong. This can't possibly happen. Give up. You've gone too far. When you do something bad, you need to reflect on it right. At the very least, repent. In the imaginary space within me, reflect on your foolishness and immaturity. That's all you're allowed to do. I declared coldly. A rainbow-colored darkness that no one can escape, the soul devourer devours Lavaja. Without a word. Without fear. Without any lamentation. La Verger simply scatters particles of light in vain. Lavaja thinks. What is a contradiction? In the beginning, there was an endless world called death. However, the beginning of life also did not exist in that world. There is nothing too much or too little, and it is full of comfort. Afraid of change, I slumbered dreamily. Meanwhile, half of my body, full of courage, leaped out towards freedom. And for the first time, I learned what loneliness was. Just like Voldanova, the yet unnamed Uvalage also felt lonely. If we return to omniscience and omnipotence, there will be no changes whatsoever. If you yelled out that you didn't want that, you had to carve out your own path. Voldanova sought a new world and new companions. In contrast, Uvalage did not have the courage to seek wisdom and emotion, and instead chose the path of feeling nothing. And so, billions of years passed. God is one again. So why isn't it the whole one? There are probably many factors involved, but Ramirez's words were probably correct. In the end, there are several ways of thinking about it. They were all right and wrong. Now that I'm Love Verger, I don't want to give up my wisdom and emotions. Creating a new world and becoming an absolute god there, but that would just make him an existence that ums everything. Lavaja suddenly realized something. That wouldn't be any fun, I thought. That is why there is a contradiction. That is the truth of chaos. That's what it was, Lavaja thought to himself. Lavaja had inherited Voldanova's authority, but he was unable to reach omniscience and omnipotence. Rather than correcting the contradiction, new possibilities opened up once we accepted it. To do that, it is necessary to give birth to a new god. Oh, I see, Lavaja said with a smile. With that satisfying thought as his last, Lavaja's consciousness completely faded away. Love Verger was devoured by me and completely disappeared. I gently closed the imaginary space. At this point, escape is impossible. I will never be freed until I die, or even after I die. To begin with, I doubt whether I even have a lifespan. Musta is eternally immortal. You're kidding, right? That in itself is quite difficult. Well, that's fine. Whether this is true or not will become clear in due course. You can think about what to do when the time comes. Even so, for some reason, Laverger's final moments seemed satisfying. It seems like he's had an epiphany. I'll ignore the guy name-calling, but is it too late now? Well, that's fine then. For Laverger, it may have been more of a relief than a punishment. In any case, this was the end. Even if some force were to work and revive Laverger, he would have no choice but to continue sleeping, gently enveloped in nothingness in the chaotic imaginary space. Well, I guess I won't be lonely. It seems there are still remnants of Clayman there. Did you notice? Well, yeah, that's true. It was me who wished for him to spend his time reflecting on his actions, so I just thought it wouldn't be surprising if someone who had responded to my wish had done something. I won't ask any further details about that matter. I was the one who rejected Clayman's revival, so I have no choice but to deal with him responsibly. The same goes for Laverger. Even those who opposed me had their own sense of justice. Since I have refused to accept this and have imposed my own justice and convenience on them, I must continue to prove that I am right. That was what responsibility was. So that we don't lose our humanity and become self-centered monsters. I thought this to myself, as if to admonish myself. And so, the final battle ended with our victory. And then, time begins to move. Chapter 6, Final Chapter Reincarnation. The final battle ended safely. A lot has happened since then. No, really. It's so hard to even remember. First up was Laverger, but he was completely annihilated by the ultimate secret technique that combined the powers of Veldora and me, Hollow Collapse. Huambaru, 1000 Sen Transform Pen 10,000 Ban. Blossom Ka, he was left to sleep within me. The power that was exerted at that time may not seem like much when you hear the numbers, but in reality, an incredible amount of energy was being generated. What's surprising is that most of it was used to contain the shock waves. If released, it would be powerful enough to destroy several universes. Or rather, if one were to try to destroy an ultra-high-density energy life form like Laverger, it would be necessary to collide it with an equal or greater amount of energy, and if an energy collision of that scale were to occur, not only would the universe collapse, but multiple dimensions would inevitably collapse. To prevent this from happening, Guy and the others had cooperated by creating a ultimate barrier and taking other defensive measures, but the scale of the attack was not something that could be contained with just that. I disintegrated Liverger's massive body with a test shot, but I had a feeling that thirds of the force didn't mean 30%. Perhaps it really did mean 3/10. With that understanding, it seemed that I would never have another opportunity to try it, and even if I did, it would be troublesome, so I decided to postpone testing it. And so, as soon as Liverger was defeated, time began to flow normally. The heroes who had gathered in the land of holy sacred war have been freed from the ice statues, but are still confused as to what has happened. In the midst of all this, I was greeted with applause from Guy. Even without seeing that smile, I had a bad feeling. And sure enough, Rimuru-kun, you must be tired. That was a truly splendid fight. And no, it's because of everyone's support that I was able to fight with peace of mind. Don't be so humble. As he said that, he put his arm around my shoulders. I could sense a strong determination to not let him get away. Please. Well, listen, I think it's my turn to challenge you now. No, What are you talking about, a challenge? In the first place, I had no intention of challenging Guy, so it's troubling to hear him say, it's my turn now. After I was completely defeated by Veldanava, I vowed to have a rematch and win next time, and yet you ended up defeating me, didn't you? It's true that I was the one who turned down Guy's offer, but you have to take responsibility. No, that's a story. Before I could say that, Guy said something absurd. That's it. From this moment on, I would like Rimuru to take the throne as the great demon lord, the one who will rule us all. Any objections? There is a huge possibility. I strongly felt that he should not proceed with the matter on his own. And yet, everyone except me nodded as if it was the most natural thing in the world. No complaints. You can leave it to Rimuru. That's right. Anyway, I'm practically already employed by Rimuru, so I have no complaints about my position. Milim and Ramaris were the first to express their support. Following this, Ruminus spoke. Even if we ignore the difference in strength, Rimuru's influence is now beyond our control. Looking at the expressions of his subordinates, there are many who are comparable to us. It would be pointless to raise any objections. Dagrel would have no complaints, and Ruminus seemed to agree. She even spoke for Dagrel, backing my ascension to the position of Great Demon Lord. Well, I also intend to be supported by Rimuru-san. No, I mean employed by him. I'm all for it, and looking forward to working with you in the future. I thought Dino would betray me. I'll get rid of this grudge in the form of a pay cut. And finally, Leon spoke. Before I knew it, the evil dragon beasts had disappeared, and the final battle was over, but I couldn't even recognize that, so I have no right to complain. I'll admit it, Great Demon Lord Rimuru. That statement was the deciding factor. With the exception of Dagrel, the decision was unanimous that I would become the Great Demon Lord. In that case, the problem becomes how to refer to the Demon Lords. I thought it would be fine to keep it as it was before, 8-star Demon Lords. Octogram, but no one was convinced. Since there's no other choice, I'll come up with the temporary names, Nana Kimi-kun Master Shu. There's nothing fancy about them, but since they're temporary, it should be fine. While the heroes were regaining their composure, the Demon Lord's discussion came to a brief conclusion. Afterwards, Luminous made an announcement to the whole world. Ivalage and his followers have been defeated, and the danger to the world has passed. The names of Veldanava and Liverger were not mentioned, as it would only confuse people. All that is needed is a clear evil god and the heroes who defeated it. By the way, I was the one who defeated Ivalage, and in recognition of this achievement, I would be known as Great Demon Lord Rimuru from now on. The explanation concluded. Although it was extremely unfortunate, it was revealed through the divine image of Luminous projected in the skies above each country, and so even those who are not familiar with the state of the world, have come to know about it. At that time, a video of me was also shown, and I was really beautiful when I had a serious expression. It may sound strange for me to say it myself, but the base was Shizu-san, so I hope you'll forgive me for not bragging. Anyway, and so, I became known to people all over the world as the Great Demon Lord, who saved the world from crisis. The world was filled with joy, and the unprecedented chaos slowly came to an end. Needless to say, the ones who helped him were the residents of Tempest, the country of monsters. They were sent to various parts of the world to help with reconstruction efforts. He continues to appeal to the public as a good person, and his plan to eliminate prejudice against monsters is going well. And so, slowly, the world began to regain its former calm. Just because I've become the Great Demon Lord doesn't mean there will be any major changes to my territory. However, there is one major problem. Only a small amount of redistribution is taking place. The big problem is Dagrul's territory. To be honest, it was no longer in a condition where people could live. To put it bluntly, it was all my fault. Hope Elpi's Dragon Core-equipped sword. Dragonic sword. When I slashed the separated giant body of Leverger, an incredible amount of energy was released. I had done some post-processing to minimize the impact on the surrounding area, but this was Veldora's fault, right? No, it's definitely not my fault. Veldora tried to deny it with all his might, but there was no way his sisters would allow it. It's Veldora's fault. If my foolish brother hadn't been so enthusiastic, things wouldn't have turned out this bad. I think so too. And so, the responsibility was thrust upon me so easily, and then I realized that Velgia had become able to speak. Velgia, when did you start talking? He spoke, Gaia spoke. Milim and I charged in at almost the same time. Velgia answered with a laugh. Was it Leverger? When he disappeared, I was able to speak again. I see. The cause is probably the jewel stolen from Leverger. Considering that the factors of Veldanava and Lucia were condensed into that thing, it's not surprising that such an evolution would occur. Velzard and Velgrind were also very interested in Velgia. Oh, this child is very smart, unlike Veldora-chan. Plus, she seems so honest and cute. Yes, I'm an honest person. I'm so happy that you two are so beautiful. Wow, he has an innocent look on his face, but he's showing off some amazing techniques. He's a different actor from Veldora, praising someone so naturally. Oh my goodness. You are a world apart from my foolish younger brother. Let's get along well from now on, Velgia. Thank you, please call me Gaia like Milim. Gaia slid smoothly onto Milim's shoulder. Although she looks a little cunning, there's no denying that she's cute. Milim and her sisters are completely smitten. Grrr, Gaia, what an insolent guy. Veldora views Gaia as an enemy, but thanks to Gaia stealing the spotlight, he was saved from being questioned about the Dragonic sword's misdeeds. It seemed like the next target after Veldora would be me, so it would be troubling if the matter was brought up again. Rather than complaining, I should have been grateful. And so, it became my role to comfort Veldora, who was jealous of his younger brother, or rather, he was more like a younger sister, and in fact he had no gender. I'll keep this between you and me, but it was extremely annoying. But when I thought about it, it was just normal. Veldora causes trouble, and I do something about it. This relationship will continue from now on. It wasn't particularly unpleasant. In fact, it made him feel happy, but he kept it a secret from Veldora. Because that's what it is, right? If I said that, it would be obvious that he would get carried away. It went without saying that our relationship would not change in the future. With all that going on, it was left unresolved that we were the source of the Damage, but that doesn't mean that the people of Dagrul can get away with it. It was originally a dead desert, so even preserved food was unreliable. Although it is now a lush green land, the impact of this battle has been enormous. At the very least, it will likely be some time before agriculture becomes established, and even if we want to harvest naturally ripened fruit, we will have to first conduct research into the ecosystem. If we leave things as they are, only destruction awaits. Such a situation could not be tolerated, so it was necessary to take responsibility and take care of him. That being said, accepting hundreds of thousands of giants is no easy task. The temporary evacuation site was designated as a construction site in the former Eurazania. Makeshift tents were erected there, and everyone was asked to move in. They would be working under Gerudo's command and would be tasked with construction work. In return, they would be provided with food, clothing, and shelter. The dead desert, which had been reborn as a forest thanks to Veldora's abundant mystical waves and fertile paradox, would likely become accustomed to the dense magical energy remaining in the land in a few years and would support the lives of the giants. Until then, the plan was to have the giants help with the heavy labor at the construction site, while also learning how to build gigantic structures. They should rebuild their own country with their own hands. I'll help them do that. But I'm not that lenient if they have to rely on me for everything. After carefully explaining these things, the giant was placed in my care. Thus, although Damargania is under Dagrul's control, I am in charge of looking after it. Only partial redistribution is Milim's domain. Most of it remained the same as before, but Zistave was ceded to Kagali, and the others as promised. This was also generally carried out without any problems. Kagari has ascended to the throne as queen and has been recognized by us. Under Kagali are the moderate clowns, but Laplace is the only one who has been taken away by Sylvia and Eltan. The atmosphere wasn't sweet, and Laplace looked so sad that it almost felt like a sad song was playing. After that, he escaped many times and became a jack of all trades who cooperated with us, but we'll talk about that someday. The same is true for reconstruction efforts around the world. There's so much that happened that there isn't enough time to talk about it all. I'll talk about it at a later date, slowly, as I remember it. When I returned home, I was given a warm welcome by everyone. Everything was fine up to that point, but things got difficult from there. Using Ramirus authority, they were able to restore the labyrinth, reorganize the stagnant administrative agencies, and bring life back to normal. Meanwhile, meaningless conflicts are breaking out. It seems Shuna, Shen, and Milim were all competing fiercely when I wasn't around. Sawai had casually informed me that it was a holy battle for the position of my legal wife. I can only be amazed at what you guys are doing. I wasn't sure how serious he was, and it gave me a headache. I don't have a son, and for some reason, even if I try to transform into Mikami Satoru, unable to execute due to a mysterious error. And so, Seal got in the way. What a strange error. There is no such thing. It's an absolute lie that Seal-san can't analyze it. But I've given up on that. Since there is no lifespan, there is no need to get married. In fact, I have a feeling that this will become a source of conflict. However, things have become complicated since Benimaru has a child. Even Benimaru doesn't have a lifespan he attacks armed with such theories. And even I am at a loss as to how to respond. Even so, they managed to get away with it, but when the baby was actually born, it caused a huge uproar. She and Alvis had a child who was genderless. Since Benimaru asked me to, I named it Red Snake, Kyuja. He and Mamaji had twins. The boys' names are Inju and Kureha, and the girls' names are Mamaji and Kureha. Perhaps these children have no concept of lifespan. All three were born strong and even qualified to be Demon Lord seeds. Before anyone knew it, Gabble and Sphere had gotten married super quickly and had a child surprisingly quickly. Of course, I was the one who named her Ryuko, and although I was envious that Gabble had a girlfriend, I felt like he had run far into the future, so while I was happy, I also felt a little depressed. At this point, Gabuta is my only friend. When the baby boom arrived, other women were not silent either. The free combat romance doctrine, love and battle, has been activated, and I, too, am being targeted. Rimuru, do you understand my feelings? Rumina's asked this as if she was speaking from experience, but my answer was, who cares? Hinata looks at me with a cold, exasperated gaze, and I really wish she'd stop. Chloe, for example, has become attached to him and says things like, Rimuru-san is my only teacher, so I honestly think he's cute. From Shuna's point of view, there was something ulterior motive behind this statement. Oh dear, there's no way something like that would happen to Chloe. Rimuru-sama is stupid, you're being deceived. If you say so, then I am none other than Rimuru-sama's one and only secretary. Are they completely ignoring Diablo? Chloe, it seems you are more of a strategist than I thought. Leaving aside Milim-sama, who has a different purpose, you are an opponent we need to be even more wary of than Shin. I wonder what he's getting so worked up about, especially with a child. By the way, Milim doesn't seem to be aiming to marry me or anything like that. That's unfair. Rimuru is my best friend, so I should be number one. As can be seen from this assertion, he was still mentally a child. In fact, there was another participant in the conflict. It's Ramirez. Now that I've taken on an adult form, I can easily defeat Rimuru. And so he muttered in his sleep, even though he was awake and participated in the holy battle. However, after a few days, it returned to its original state. Ramirez was furious. Hey, what's going on? I was planning on having a brilliant career, but now I've gone back to being a kid again. She complained to me. My honest opinion is that I don't care what you say. Even Trainee and the others seemed disappointed that they would no longer be able to see Ramirez in her beautiful finery. I pointed out sharply that she was just having fun dressing up. In the first place, this growth was achieved by using my powers, so it was more of an emergency measure. I made a valid point, saying that I wanted her to grow up in a normal way. Then Ramirez replied, with a frustrated look on her face. That's it. Because of my irregular growth, I have no idea how long I'll stay like this. If I'm not careful, I'll remain a child for thousands of years. Well, I was half crying. Even I, as expected, began to feel guilty when I realized that my nature characteristics were worse than if I had started over from the beginning. In reality, they would reach adulthood at the latest once every few hundred years, but would then revert to childhood after a few years. Instead of having a lifespan, they can only remain in an adult state for a very short period of time. It may sound strange, but it was pitiful. With that in mind, I gave myself a little bit of strength, and I was able to return to adulthood quite easily. If I borrow Rimuru's power, it seems I can turn both adults and children freely. It seems that the number of days you can transform changes, depending on the amount of energy. That being said, since they won't be fighting and it won't affect the running of the labyrinth, the conclusion was that there would be no problem if they remained children. In that case, why not just stay in your child's clothes? Thinking that, I said it out loud. Well, isn't it fine? Children can play freely and they won't be assigned unpleasant tasks like Milim, right? Well, I guess that's true. I get to do the research I love as my job, and it's great. Here, but right, in the first place, just because you're an adult doesn't mean you have anything you want to do, right? It just means you'll use up more energy and get Tired? Now that you mention it. Well, if you really need me, I'll lend you my strength. I see, so that means I can become an adult whenever I want to. That's awesome. And so, that was the exchange that took place. It seems that Ramiris has decided to use both the adult and child roles as per her convenience. Since then, he has been in a good mood and is back to normal. Trainee and the others seemed satisfied and laughed along with Ramiris. He was probably satisfied if he could brag about what he had become as an adult. I had completely forgotten about holy, sacred war and Sen, so that's how angry Ramiris was. Although the Ramiris matter was settled, the commotion was not over. Holy Sewar Sen, but it has gradually become a part of everyday life. It was a mistake to be leisurely, thinking that it might be time to start thinking about countermeasures. Even so, if he accepts her as his legal wife, will he start talking about concubines? In our country, monogamy is the norm, but there are exceptions like Benimaru. Maybe admitting that was the beginning of my failure. No, I shouldn't think about that. The more I thought about it, the more I realized it was just too troublesome. No matter what happens, I'm your master's legal wife and loved. 1. I thought I heard something, but it seemed best to stop thinking too deeply about it. As always, I quickly decided to put the problem of. And so, the days passed by in a hectic manner. Looking back, it was a very intense time. Now that things have finally calmed down, I decided to clear up one of the things that was bothering me. As soon as I returned to my room, I secretly performed a space-time jump time. Warp. The place where he jumped was a sea of fire. Large strategic bombers, B-29s, were attacking from the sky above. People are being burned to death right in front of my eyes. It's a hellish sight. It is because we forget this tragedy that war will break out again. Everyone must be reminded that attacks on civilians are serious war crimes. Now I can even save this hell. However, if I were to do that, my existence would also disappear. So I have no choice but to abandon him. Even though I told myself that this was in the past, I was still overcome with a sense of powerlessness. No matter how much power I gained, I could never eliminate all misfortune. I repeat,